Hello, it's Chris here, and I am here to film my May wrap up. I was planning on doing this video before the end of May, like the last day of it, but then I had things that happened, like with my novel that I need to work out like immediately. So that happened, and then More Happy Than Not came out, and I read it immediately, and now it's whatever day it is. So, but I'm doing it, and it's also going to be sort of a TBR thing at the end. And this is going to go in sections, so. Phew. This month I tried audiobooks for really like the first time by myself. Like we've listened to some audiobooks in classes before, but I've never actually listened to any audiobooks on my own, and so I listened to 2 audiobooks this past month, May. So first one I listened to was Like and Subscribe by J Bell. And I listened to that one just on YouTube. They have the entire audiobook up on YouTube. I'll link it in the description below if I remember to. But it's literally just this really cute story about this guy who has been obsessed with a YouTuber. We've all been there. He's obsessed with this YouTuber, but he's obsessed to the point where it's hindering his real relationships because he's comparing everyone to this image he has of this YouTuber. But when he finally meets this YouTuber, that image is not exactly as he thought it was. It's a little bit different, and the story kind of goes from there. What I really loved about this, I loved the audio, the narrator of this audiobook. Originally, I think some people would get annoyed by the best friend's voice. I really liked the best friend's voice. I liked the best friend's as a character, his best friend Julie. I liked him. I liked the romance that comes out of the story. It was just well developed, and it kind of surprised me. Not fully surprised me, but it did kind of surprise me. So I really enjoyed it. It was the first thing I ever encountered by J Bell and made me get language lessons and read it. And it's gonna make me get more things for J Bell. I'm obsessed now, so that's a thing. The other audiobook that I read was Hero by Perry Moore, and I've wanted to read this story for a while. And I absolutely loved it. This is a story about Tom. Tom is a teenager, so this is kind of a coming of age type of story. But Tom is gay, so he's in the closet because his father is very anti-gay people. His father is very anti-superheroes because his father is a disgraced superhero. And so Tom is also hiding that he has a power, and he hides that he wants to go and try out for the superhero league, which is what he does in this book. And it was a fantastic story, queer superhero as the main character, and so many issues that kind of happen because of his sexuality and because in his superhero life. There's a big superheroes are starting to wind up dead, essentially, is the kind of thing that happens, and Tom is trying to figure out what's going on. And so it's really well done story that I really enjoy. Definitely check this one out. First one up is Let Me Invest in You. And it's about this guy named William, who is I don't know if he's a billionaire. He has a lot of money, and he's investing in the company of Paul. And so he goes to meet Paul because he's investing in his company. Paul's kind of a workaholic, and William used to be such a workaholic that he injured himself, like from the stress and everything. So he tells Paul that he needs to slow down and takes Paul out to lunch. They start a kind of friendship that builds very quickly into kind of a romance, and well, at least a sexual relationship and then a romance. And I really, really enjoyed this story. I was like with it from beginning to the end. I really liked the characters. I liked the way the romance built up. Only I didn't like was kind of a little bit of thing at the end that I don't really want to even go into. It was just a weird thing that happened at the end of it. But overall, I really like the characters. Like I even like the main character's ex-wife, who was just a fantastic character, even though she was kind of a stereotype. But I really, really, really liked her still. So it was a very good story. Hidden Talents by Claire Cray. This is a sci-fi novel with lots of gay characters in it. So it's kind of like in my like niche area kind of thing that I like to read and write. So I thought it would be really great, but this was kind of disappointing in a lot of areas. I'm gonna go over this quickly. Really awkward sex scene. Very disjointed. You kind of hop from perspectives, and I'm totally fine with that if it works. But this felt very disjointed, and that was really only two bad things. I think the power system in the world that Claire Cray has created is amazing, and the entire series is free. I'm pretty sure, or the first three books are, because I have the other two on my Kindle, and I'm probably gonna read them because they're kind of, you don't get a lot of the story. It's like they're like little parts you have to keep reading. They're kind of like separated, serialized, and so I'm gonna keep read the next two, and then I'm gonna see, probably just review all three of them and see if it's like worth continuing the rest of the series. Language Lessons is by J Bell. I absolutely love J Bell right now. Like I'm on like a J Bell kick, and like I'm gonna probably buy something like Thunder this month. It's gonna happen. But he wrote the story Language Lessons, which is, you can get for free on ebook, and it's a story about, I don't know the guy's name right now because I read it a while back, but he is a kind of not a relationship kind of guy. He has sex with a lot of people. He thinks he can get any guy, until he meets this guy who wants nothing to do with him, because this guy is a relationship guy. This guy has not had sex. He does not want to have sex with anyone without having like an emotional attachment. And it was really, really, really well done. I love J Bell's writing. I like the build up of how the development of this character from beginning to the end of the story. It was like it might be expecting how it's gonna go, but I liked the arc of this character, and it made it definitely worth reading for me. Next up, Taken by His College Roommates and Friends. This story was kind of really uncomfortable. This guy kind of gets coerced into sex with his roommate and his roommate's friends. He basically comes home. He doesn't know his roommate very well at all, by the way. This is like very recent roommates. Comes back to the dorm, and there's two guys having sex in one bed with his roommates. He doesn't see his roommate right away, and then his roommate kind of jumps him, and they kind of start an orgy, but it's very awkward and very forced. But even though he consents at some point, like he definitely consents, but it just felt really weird. The next one, Screwing My Hot Older Neighbor. This guy has a quick attraction to his new neighbor who lives across the street. Guess what happens? They have sex. It's really not a very plot-driven story. There's erotica in it. It's muscle twink erotica. It was interesting. There's beer play in it, which I also felt interesting. I'd never seen that before, and I was like reading it like, this is interesting. I've never seen this before. So that was something I actually enjoyed about it, and I thought the writing was fairly good. The sex scene was fairly well written. So there you go. Gay Rebel, which I don't know how I feel about this book. And it's about this kid, once he turns 18, his next door neighbor, who is a biker guy, takes him to this biker bar, and he has his first gangbang. That's a great way to lose your virginity, totally. Now, and he has gains this obsession with the biker. I think he's already had some obsession with the biker, this older guy. And there's another sex scene in the book later on between the two of them. But it was, man, it wasn't very plot driven. There's like 6 or 7 books in the series, so maybe there's a plot later on. I don't know. The Birthday Burglar. This story is about a guy whose boyfriend tells him he's not being spontaneous enough. So for his birthday, his boyfriend, he thinks he's gonna do this really awesome roleplay thing. He's gonna pretend to be a burglar. This can't go wrong at all, can it, guys? It does. It does. You know it's going to, and it does. This was stupid. You should know better than to pretend to be a burglar without explaining it before. Roleplay is awesome and all that. If you explain what you're doing, you guys have an arrangement. If you guys have planned, hey, you're gonna do this at some point this week, even, that would be okay, you know? Because like then they know they have this plan going, and they know not to be actually terrified for their lives. And when you come in with a freaking mask over your face, like, no. So yeah, this story. It honestly, the characters were pretty okay and everything, but I just couldn't get past that. The last thing that I read ebook-wise in May was the ebook Giving In by Piper Vaughn, and it is the attachment to the book Wanting by Piper Vaughn, which is like one of my favorite books I've read this year. And it's like a little short 14 or 20 page story about the characters of Jonah and Lori on getting ready for Valentine's Day. And Jonah wants to do a superhero role play, but Lori, who is always the very practical Lori, feels like that's very weird. He feels like he's going to be embarrassed by it, and he just doesn't want to do it. But the story's called Giving In. What do you think is going to happen? I'll just tell you that it's cute. It's a very cute little short story that I definitely enjoy reading, and I can't wait till Paperbomb puts out a second book, like a full book, with Jonah and Lori, what she's planning on doing. Even though I read the premise of it, and I'm like, holy crap, don't do this to me. Don't put this type of angst in it. But I will deal with that type of angst for Jonah and Lori because they're going to have a happy ending. I know it. I'll read through the angst for that type of ending because they deserve each other. They are like my favorite couple in a book ever. Alright, so the only physical book that I read during this month was, I think it was the only physical one, or at least that I finished during the month of May, is, whoa, super glare, Brendan Wolf by Brian Malloy. And this was a book, the reason why this might be the only physical book that I got through is because it took me a really long time to get through this book. Like, I started it back in really early in the month on a train ride to go see my fiance, and I just couldn't finish it, and so I put it down and originally picked it back up. And it's not a bad book. It's just I don't think it was a book for me. Maybe I feel like I'd pick it up on a different time and try it out again, but I didn't give it a rating because I liked the concept and I liked the way the plot and the writing was. I just don't know why I didn't like this book. I was just like, I don't know. The main character is a con artist, and he goes through this big con. He's also gay. Um, yeah, I feel like I can't explain why I don't like it without spoiling too much. So there you go. Alright, that's it for the wrap-up portion of the video. I also read 3 webcomics in May, but I'm just going to do a webcomic video later in the month, so I'm just going to put those with that one. And I usually don't do TBRs because I usually don't stick to them. Honestly, I kind of just pick what books I feel like reading at the moment. But there's some books that I'm definitely going to be reading this month, mainly because they're NetGalley reads that I'm really excited for. The one I'm most excited for is the one I'm reading right now, Misfits by Garrett Lee, and I got really excited for this book because I've been looking for a book that does polyamory really well, does a polyamorous relationship really well. And there are a few out there that I like have marked as like books that I want to read. But when I was like looking at this, and then next week I looked through NetGalley and there's this book, and I'm like, I want to see the relationship between these 3 guys and how it develops. Also, one of the 3 guys has Tourette's syndrome, and I have read a book about a character with Tourette's syndrome before, and this book is really great so far. I'm excited. The other 3 books that I'm from, which are all NetGalley reads, are The Rise and Fall of Theater Geek by Seth Rudetsky, and this is about a kid who wants his big moment in the spotlight, and when he gets an internship in New York with this famous actor, he thinks he's going to have it. I've wanted to read this book since I've heard about it last year, so this is something I'm going to definitely probably read very soon. The other 2 books are Stripped with the Vampire by Jack Scarron. This just seemed like a actually interesting gay vampire novel. Like, I usually don't read vampire stories at all. I've had bad experiences, but this looked interesting enough for me to be like, yeah, I'll read this. So the last one is called Rememberers by C. Edwin Baldwin, I believe, and it comes out in August. This is about a girl who's suffering from deja vu and thinks it's the cancer that claimed her mother, but soon finds out she's something else, and that she has to go fight some demons to save humanity. It sounds pretty interesting. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I have had bad luck with books like this, but I also have really enjoyed some books like this. It really just depends on the character and the writing style, so hopefully I really enjoy it. So that's the books for my TBR, all from NetGalley. I might pick up a physical book because I have like stacks here that I haven't read yet, but I'm going to be quite busy this month with my writing and some other things, but I do plan on buying some books this month because I returned to textbook and got some Amazon credits for it, and that money is going to go all to books because I have no self-control and have lost most control of my life when it comes to book buying. Like, I already have a queue of books that I'm buying and audiobooks that I'm getting with the money I get when I get that money on my card. So, book haul happening later, which is going to be cool. But other than that, this is going to be it for this video. I'm sorry this is probably super long, and that's probably why it's a good thing that I'm moving the webcomics to a different video. But yeah, what did you guys read in May, or what are you planning on reading in June? Because I'd love to know. and I will see you all next time. Guy wants to spontaneous. Okay, blah blah blah. He's not being spontaneous enough. Blah. Shit, I can't spontaneous blah 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 blah. Words are hard.